Hello and welcome to the Gentoo Linux installation tutorial. So first of all, please go to this website, gentoo.org/downloads, and download this CD and the install CD, and then create a new VM with 2 GB of RAM, 64 GB of HDD, and 2 CPU and 2 cores. So we're just gonna do that. You can select the other Linux 5x and later option here. Click on next. Then you can give it 64 GB of hard disk space, that'd be enough. Customize hardware. Then you can assign 2 GB of RAM and have 2 CPUs and 2 cores. Just like that. And then after that, you can boot on the live CD on Gentoo kernel. And then you can basically like start the VMware. When you start it, you can log in by using Gentoo. In the boot, you can write Gentoo there and select the appropriate language for the keyboard layout. I left it with the US. So when you're prompted, you can create 3 partitions using the fdisk command. Um, the first partition is going to be the boot partition with 128 MB of space. The second is going to be a swap partition with 4 GB of space. And the third partition is going to be the root partition with the remaining amount of space. So if you use fdisk dev sda p for to list the print the partitions table, and if you wanna create a new partition, that one you can press N, and we're gonna create a primary partition. So press P again, and then assign 128 MB of space. And as you can see, our first partition has been created. Now let's create the second partition. So press N, and then to create a new partition, then P for a primary partition, and then you can assign it 4 GB of space, just like that. And the second partition has been created. Let's create a third one the same way, but instead of allocating any space, just press Enter. It's gonna allocate the remaining amount of space. So now we have to format each partition. Dev SDA1 has to be EX2 and not encrypted, since it contains a decryption software. But now we have to make make it bootable. So in order to do that, we need to press A to activate the partition. As you can see, the star represents that the first partition is bootable. Okay. So let's format each partition. We use the mkfs command. So dev SDA has to be EX2 and not encrypted, since it contains the decryption software. So dev SDA2 is encrypted, and it's a swap partition. We'll use any password. I used Gentoo123. And SDA3 is also encrypted. So we use crypt setup, Lux format, dev S3. Just use the same password for everything, so you don't forget. And now we're gonna be mounting the partition so we can start using them to store our files. So now we open the swap partition and make it into a meaningful name, such as swap, and we'll format the swap partition, mkswap, and we'll enable it to let the system start using it. So we'll use the swap on command. We'll open the root partition, enter the password that you set, and we'll format the root partition to ext4. And now we'll mount the decrypted root partition to mnt Gentoo folder. Voila. And now we have to download and extract stage 3 archive to deploy the basic files on the root partition. So first of all, we need to change the directory to mnt Gentoo so that downloaded files get saved there. Let's change the directory to mnt Gentoo. And we'll use the links command line browser to visit gentoo.org to download the files. And then we go to the downloads option and then download the latest stage 3 AMD64 desktop system D archive for AMD64. We'll wait for it to finish. And then after that, we're going to decompress the archive to the local folder, which is the MNT Gentoo folder. So as you can see, it has been downloaded. So we'll use the tar command, xvpf is to extract, preserve owners and permissions, verbose, and force overwriting existing files. So we'll wait for it. I think we're gonna pause the video, as in, because it's gonna take longer. We're just gonna, cut this part. But after that, we'll have to prepare the ch root to the new environment. So we'll copy the DNS configuration to the new environment. Just take a snapshot for backup. Extracted stage 3 because it kind of took long. So that's why, you can make a backup for that. So in the bottom left, as you can see, has the snapshot has been saved, almost done, 99, 100. And now we can copy the DNS configuration to the new environment. So copy etc resolve conf into the mnt Gentoo etc, and we'll copy the Gentoo ebuild repository configuration. So for that, we'll have to make a new directory just to see the content of the file, and we use the mkdir command to make a new directory. And after that we have to copy into that folder. Just make sure everything is written correctly. And now we're gonna be binding key file systems to the new environment. Mount hyphen type proc. Next line is mount. It's the same, just change type to R bind and proc to system sys. Both of the procs to system. Mount hyphen make R hyphen R slave. And that's it. The fourth one has to be R bind dev mnt gentoo dev, and then make R slave mnt gentoo dev, then R bind run mnt gentoo dev, then make R slave mnt gentoo run, and then after that we'll change root directory to the new environment. So let's change it root mnt gentoo bin bash. Just make sure that etc resolve.conf is available inside the chroot, chroot, sorry. We change the directory, and now we have to sync the repositories. Don't worry about this. Yeah, as I said, you have to check the etc resolve conf file and then the contents of it. If you got a name server, that's fine. And then I think you can set the date, today's date. So since today was the 28th of April 2022, I wrote date 04 being the month, 28 being the day, and the time being 1850. Voila. And after that, you can emerge up. You can basically sync the repositories. So use the emerge web or sync command. Yep. And then after that, we have to mount the boot partition. So let's just wait for it to be done. Okay, yeah. Now we're gonna be mounting the boot partition. So we'll use the mount command dev slash first partition, which was the boot partition. Check if the internet's working quickly. Let's mount the boot partition. Now we need to set up the time zone and locales. Okay, so to set up your time zone, you can use this command. I live in Paris, so I did Europe, Paris, and then etc local time. And then you can set up your locale. For me, it's ENUS. Just uncomment these two, save the file, and regenerate the locales by doing locale-gen. And then you can select your locale, have the list ready, and then just do select local set um, ENUSUTF8. And then you can update your profile. Yep, so now your profile is updated. So now please make sure crypt setup use flag is enabled. So we'll go to this file. We add another line called use equals crypt setup. Voila. You don't need to add IPv6. That was a mistake, which I'm gonna correct later on. But it's just use equals speech mark. Speech marks inside the speech marks is just script setup. And then after that, you can save the file, Control X, Y, press Enter, and then install the Gentoo Linux kernel by writing this code. As you can see here, I think so. It was a mistake. I had to cancel the installation because I had to remove the IPv6, which was added by accident. As you can see here, I'm just correcting the mistake and then running the Gentoo Linux installation command again. Save that and then update. Now my colleague Sharon will take over.
We're going to install Gentoo Linux kernel, which is a hot of operating system. Um, So it's we using a merge Gentoo source, which will download from a Gentoo repository and apply the patches and install. So we're going to see how many files that Linux kernel contain. So using find user src type file, we just filter out the number of files. So it's around 73k. So we can also check how many lines Linux kernel has. So find user src and cat, which counts the number of lines in the Linux contains. It is around 31 million lines. It's a bit long because it takes computation time to calculate all the lines. So we can just skip this part. After this, we're going to configure the kernel. Okay, we skip this part. We're going to configure the kernel. So we move to the kernel folder, which is inside the directory user src Linux. Yeah. Okay. Inside it, there's a number of files. So we just make config to configure the kernel. Okay, we go make menu config. So here you can go to Gentoo Linux. It's down below. Okay, in that support init terms. Okay, we enable the system D. We're coming back. Then we go to the device drivers, enable the fusion. Okay, multiple device drivers support. Okay, inside the multiple device support, we enable the device mapper. Under that, crypt target support. We're coming back. So we need frame buffer. We should enable that. On the SCPGA. Inside file systems, we go to second external AFS support and fuse file system. Inside cryptography API, we enable the user SRC. Okay, space and XTC support, XTS support, and SHA digest algorithm. Okay, then the symmetric key cipher algorithms. In the security options, we enable the DPL operation. Inside Linux case support, we enable that. Inside mix drivers, we enable the VMware. We disable the VMC driver and balloon driver. Inside Fusion, MGP hosts the driver's SPI. Inside I2C support. Okay, we configure these all uh, with these all options, which is hardening the kernel. So we can which was completely taking control of Linux. Uh, by this, we can reduce the uh, attack surface. So VMware, VM Linux Internet. In the graphics card support, we enable the DRM driver, GPU. So we save it now. Okay. Okay, we enable the virtual socket protocol, but we disable the virtual socket loopback. We disable VMware VMC support for virtual sockets. So we overwrite it and save it. Okay. We going back to the terminal. So here we nano. Okay. We now compile our kernel and make compile our kernel, and we make modules and modules install and make install them, and we going to deploy the kernel. So after installing, after making the kernel, we make modules install and make modules install and make install. Okay, after installing, now we're going to prepare the bootloader and init purpose. So for that, we're going to make all accept license to accept and use PCSF, use flag bootloader. So we accept all the license with star. So grab platforms PC. So now we're going to install the Gen kernel, and so that we can build the init buffers and grub loader. So emerge quiet Gen kernels. So now we're going to list the kernel list available, and we select the kernel list 1. Okay. So now we're going to load the init buffers. So it's now initiating. which will generate the RAM-based file system with scripts and next boot process and decrypting partitions. After we going to set up the encryption for swap for every reboot. So nano etc crypt. So we type the swap dev sda21 dev random swap. Then we going to configure the partition mount partition. So etc fstab nano etc fstab. So dev sda1 dev sda1 and swap partition root. So after that we make configuration file and we going to install the inside the grub configuration we going to set the default grub options. So after that we're going to install the grub bootloader in dev sda hard disk one which is boot. So installation finished, no error. Now we move to grub make configuration file which will generate the grub configuration file. Okay, it's done. So for pre-boot setup we're going to set up the password for the root. So enter the password and re-enter the password. Okay, then we're going to set up the host name. So nano etc host name. Here Gentoo VM. We can give any name as you wish. So yeah, so nano etc host. We're going to give the username next to the host local host. Here which it is host which changes the IP changes to traffic to IP address. So if config. So we have a Ethernet connection which is ENP2S1. So nano etc systemd. So we're going to create a network profile which will match we give Ethernet name and DHCPS as a network for network. After that we're going to enable the network service systemctl enable systemd network dot service system enable systemd resolve dot service. So it enable the network and DNS service at the boot time. So then if you want to know the status of the services, so we can systemctl list unit files. Here the list of all enabled and disabled. Now we're going to set up a mission ID to hello DHCP to get an IP. So systemd mission ID setup. So mission ID is generated. Now we're going to exit and reboot. Uh, Before that you can also take a snapshot If anything happens, we can just run back to the where we took a snapshot, just in case. So we go into reboot.
So after reboot, you'll be asked to enter your password to decrypt dev SDA3. If you remember, we encrypted it during the installation. So remember the password you selected and enter it here. Once that is done, dev SDA3 will be decrypted and booting will continue. So once the booting is done, you'll be asked to enter login credentials here. So here, the login credentials will be root and the password you selected during the installation. If you remember, you entered the root for Gentoo VM login. You change the password for the root during the installation. So you enter that password here. So the username where you see Gentoo VM or Gentoo, you can enter the password. Enter root there and then enter the password that you selected. Once that is done, we will also change the key map. You change the key map because some people are using keyboard that is not the default keyboard for Gentoo. So the default keyboard for Gentoo is US keyboard. So sometimes if you are using a different keyboard, you might encounter some issues. So what we have to do is to enter this command local ctl set key map to. So here you select the countries. So if it's UK, you add UK. So the command to add a user on Linux is user add. So here, let's do something. We will add the user and then we use minus m minus g users. So the command is user add minus m minus g users will audio video minus x slash bin slash bash. Then ayet. Here we are using ayet because the name of our user is ayet. I mean, we're using ayet's computer. So use ayet here. Feel free to use any name that you want here. Let me try and explain the options. So minus m here, the minus m here will create the home profile. So whenever we create a user on Linux, it stays in the home profile. So minus m here will create the home profile. Minus g here is group, so the user will be added to some groups. And then we have wheel, which is to run general system maintenance. And we have audio, so ability to change audio settings and video. Yeah. And then minus s here is we are setting our user to a default shell. So the default shell we are setting the user to here is bin bash. Yeah. And then the name of the user. So after adding the user, we can confirm by running the command ls/home to see if the user has been added to /home. So after adding the user, the next thing is to change the password for our user. So here the user is ayet. So to do that, you use the command password ayet. Now we have to enter a password for the user. So here we have to enter a strong password, then press enter, and then we re-enter the same password for confirmation. So now we are done with the basic installation of command line system. We have a command line system that has two users, and that's the users are root and ayet. So if you want a nice looking desktop environment with the ability to use the mouse to have larger screen, etc., we have to install few applications to do that. You know, so to do that, to install the desktop configuration, you have to modify the video cards variable to limit drivers to VMware only. Since we are using VMware, so we would want to limit the drivers to VMware. To modify that, we will use the command nano /etc/portage /make.conf, and then we press enter. So once that's open, we enter video cards is equal to VMware, as I'm doing here. Yeah. So after that, you create a package.use file to enable use flags for specific packages. So you create that with nano /etc/portage /package.use/all. So once that is open, you enter the following required by xorg server. Here, required by xorg server is not mandatory, it's a comment. So you write the comment here. And then the next line, we use x11 minus libs slash libdrm lib kms. And then on the we move to the next line, media minus libs, then slash mesa xa. So we save that, and then after that we will install Zoc server with i3 window manager and some packages. So to do that, we will enter the command emerge quiet xorg server i3 status i3 lock d menu terminator. So this will take some time, so you will skip that. Yeah. So once that is done, you create a script to start i3 automatically when logged into TTY. So to create the script, we will edit the user bash profile by entering the command nano /home/ayet. Here, feel free to use the name you use for your user, and then /bash_profile. Here, you have to use the normal user account to do this. So before you do that, you have to switch to the user account. Yeah. So once that is open, we enter this script, shopt shopt. So I will type it and follow. Minus skill login minus shell no login underscore shell, then it minus t0. Yeah, so you type this command. Then we will edit. After that, we will edit x init rc. So x init rc. To do that, we will use the command nano /home/ayet slash dot x init rc. So once that is open, you will enter exec i3, and then we save and we close. So after doing that, you have to install VM tools. So we have to install VM tools. So now we have, so that we can have a larger screen, we will install VM tools by using the command emerge open VM tools. Sorry, emerge open VM tools. We have to do this with a super user account. So make sure you do this with a super user account. Yeah. Once that is done, we will have to create a systemd unit service to start VM2's SD at boot time. So we have to add this so that whenever um, we boot the service, to create a systemd so that we can uh, start VM2's SD at boot. Yeah. So the command is nano /etc/systemd/system/vmware tools.service. So once it's opened, enter unit, like how I'm typing it, description, VM tools, daemon, service is sec start, it's got to user being VM tools. So yes, you type this, and you have to also do this with the super user account. So yeah, you have to switch the super user accounts before editing this too or creating this. So once that is done, you will enable the service so it starts automatically at boots. So to do that, we will enter systemctl enable VMware tools. So we will enable the VMware tools here. So once that is done, we have to install some applications, some desired applications, and the whole idea of this installation is security. So we have to install some applications to, and also make sure that we disable some um, attack surfaces. So here, to install the applications, we will see, we will install Firefox with no audio, no video support. So we have to disable ALSA, pause audio, and FFmpeg globally. So to do this, we have to edit the make.config file. So enter nano/etc/portage/make.conf and add use. So we already edited this document, so you can see it. Like if you see use, so where you like exactly what I'm doing here, use. So if you remember, we already have create set up here. So add minus alsa minus pause audio minus ffmpeg. So add minus alsa pause audio ffmpeg. Once that is done, we can now install Firefox with the command emerge Firefox minus bin minus q. Yeah. So that is that. Thank you.
And now we're going to be disabling the unnecessary attack surfaces such as Bluetooth, audio, network file support, and Ethernet device drivers. So in order to do that, we need to go to the so in order to disable the Bluetooth, we need to make this new file. In order to blacklist the Bluetooth feature, we need to enter this command into the file, and then we save it. And then first, if you're not already changed to this directory, you need to change to this directory, and then go to the make menu config and go device drivers, and to disable the audio you need to disable the sound card support. You go back, you go again to the device drivers, and then you go into the network device support. Don't disable it, that was by accident. I re-enabled it. So you just go into the network device support and you disable the Ethernet driver support option. And now you go back again and go to the file systems, and you go into the, actually you just disable the network file system completely, and you just save the config file, and that's it. Thank you very much for watching the Gentoo tutorial.